Welcome to the Eating at a Meeting podcast. I'm your host, Tracy Stuckrath, dietary needs expert, certified meetings manager, certified food protection manager. I have searched the globe to find people and businesses who are creating safe, sustainable, and inclusive food and beverage experiences for their employees, guests, and communities. In each episode, you will find authentic conversations about how food and beverage impacts inclusion, sustainability, culture, community, health, and wellness. I know that sounds like a lot, but we're going to cover it all. Are you ready to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line? If so, let's go. I'm really excited to introduce you to my guest today. Her name right here is Amy Graves, and she is the owner of the Hidden Consumer Consulting and the soon-to-be author of the book called The Hidden Consumer. She helps navigate new markets of consumers to those in the natural and organics industries. So, and everybody, there was an issue streaming to the Facebook group, which I think is because they took the third-party things out there. So hopefully you're going to catch me on the Thrive Facebook page. Yeah. So it is a pain, but that is what we do as podcast hosts. We navigate these things. So the Allergy Table and Cheryl Hartel have joined us on Instagram. Hello, ladies. Nice to see you. And please let us know if you have any comments in the chat or on the comments in Instagram. And actually, let's title the thing. We're going to kick off it with an inspiring episode featuring Amy Graves. So, Amy, what made you start the company, the Hidden Consumer Consulting? And because it really does tell your history, so I would love you to share that with everyone.
I will try and keep it brief because you're going to be able to read it in the book.
Okay, that's fine.
So 2013, I started dealing with an ongoing sinus infection. Ended up having some other health issues, led to an MRI. They found massive lumps in my sinus cavity. ENT finally got in. We did surgery, and I had impacted infections throughout my sinus cavity. You only see that type of impaction when it is a food related. And I was told I had to find my source of allergen ASAP. Turned out it took me 3 full years to figure out what I was sensitive to and what my sensitivity level was. And I was allergic to corn and corn derivatives, so I cannot buy food in a grocery store. That led me, right? That is the first line on my book. I cannot buy food in a grocery store. And that led to a whole journey. And this last year has been very transforming in how I take my personal journey, but really turn it around for companies to understand how, even though I am an extreme case as a super sensitive in this world, there are a lot of people in the middle ground who still can't shop and buy your products because they have unrecognized allergies. What was my problem is corn is not recognized by the federal government. So there are multiple allergies out there not recognized. So if you're not recognized by the federal government, that means the doctors aren't testing for your allergen. There is no test for a corn allergy.
Oh, not at all?
None at all. So I had to, for a full year, I tracked my food intake and my reactions. And I had to track what ingredients were in all my food.
Okay, so how do you go get the ingredients of the food? Like I always use Bush's baked beans because a dog will not tell you the secret recipe. But that's a lot of companies are not telling you their secret recipes. How do you get all those ingredients?
So they do have to list their ingredients for the most part. It's when they put natural flavoring. First of all, that's not natural. It's going to always be artificial. And that's going to be where they hide the ingredients they don't want you to know about. So if it says natural flavoring, don't buy it. That's all there is to it. Don't buy it. And that's what it came down to for me. At the time I figured out I was corn, it was because of high fructose corn syrup was in the news. Okay. And Americans became so upset about the science out on high fructose corn syrup and the danger it was doing to the human body. They stopped buying product with high fructose corn syrup in it. So the corn lobby lobbied the FDA for them to add it into natural flavors to get their sales back. And the FDA agreed.
Oh, wow.
Remember, we're a capitalistic country that's perfectly legal, and that's how we do business.
Yes.
So as a consumer, now we have to make sure we're aware and say, okay, if it says natural flavors, I can't assume it's going to be safe. I have to assume the worst and
Right.
not buy that product.
And with the natural flavors, can you also do that? You can't possibly do that. They're not allowed to do that with the top 9 allergens then either,
No.
right?
No,
Right.
they can't. Top 9, they have to. Yeah.
Okay.
That's just why, well, and if you think about sesame became a top 9 allergen within January 2023?
Yeah.
Or was it 2024? 2023. And Wendy's had that huge article out about them because people had been the safe food for their kids. Right. But reality is their vendor for buns had probably been using sesame oil for some time and just never disclosed it. And then Wendy's didn't do their due diligence to tell the customers, oh, hey, by the way, your now recognized allergen is in our buns.
Right. And then there's the people who started putting it in automatically so they wouldn't have to clean their conveyor belts. Yeah. Thank you very much. Yes. Yeah.
Well, and that's why Enjoy Life ended up closing because their main ingredient for all their products was sesame. Well, and corn, because it was like death to a corn allergen is you don't eat Enjoy Life. But
oh, really? I didn't know
it was
that.
Not allergen friendly for us.
Oh, I'm sorry. There's noise in my house. I'm trying to get them to lower. It doesn't bother you, I'm sure, but it bothers me. Okay, so this was 2014. You said 13 that you found out you had this corn allergy. And my friend from what company? I forgot the name of it. She's the one that told me like the package, the little piece of paper underneath the chicken, when you open up a chicken package, that's made from corn, that little piece of whatever. And then, and then someone else told me that dryer sheets are made from corn. So
your tea bags.
So are tea bags?
Yeah.
Is that what you said? Wow.
Yeah. Coffee filters.
Wow. Everything's made with corn. So tell us how you eat and how you buy then.
So I am lucky enough to say I have privilege because I'm from Minnesota, and Minnesota, our number one export is corn. So I vacationed out in the Paso Robles area of California in 2017, March, and I found so much fresh food in March that I went home and cried for a week because I could no longer have fresh spinach. Who cries over spinach? Apparently me. And we moved to California by August 1st because the only way for me to continue to survive was to work with farmers year round. And in California, their farmers markets are very regulated, which is a blessing to someone like me with an unrecognized food allergy. So I know I can only shop at California certified organics, which means they have like decades of free of pesticide and fertilizer use, like decades. It's not just they switched last year. So they're truly clean. But even when I go into those farmers, I still have to bring a list of questions because there's still things they do that will make me sick. So I have to be very cognizant about where I'm getting my food.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So then I want to jump to, I have 5 zillion questions for you, but I want to jump to I know. True. Yes. We can totally do that. You just came back from a conference, and actually somebody just added a comment.
They said, "Hi, Tracy, I found you." Whee!
Yeah. Sorry, it's Facebook doesn't allow third-party streaming into the groups anymore, so I have to do this. Hi, so happy to have you here. So you just got back from attending a conference. Mm-hmm. So you, just because you moved from Minnesota to California so you could eat fresh food, and spinach, you can't have it because it comes in the plastic container at the grocery store. So you're buying it direct from farmer. Tell us about the experience at conferences. And you were talking about morning breakfast, right? And there was continental breakfast. So just a little bit of that and how we as meeting professionals could feed you.
You can't. Let's just be honest. You can't. The things they did for me though, that like I'm the accessibility director and the secretary for NABO California. And they went the extra mile and they had but they had glass bottled spring water. I can't drink anything with carbonation because carbonation uses corn-based gas, which will make me sick. So there you go. Yeah. So they had fresh bottled water. I literally could have not, I brought a suitcase full of glass bottled water because
Wow.
I have no way of
That's
getting
heavy.
water otherwise. Yeah. Yeah. It like, I pay for first class, so I get that for free.
Okay.
It is cheaper in the long run. But yeah, so they can't feed me. They just absolutely cannot. But what I asked for at this conference is that as accessibility director, I'm having them add food allergens and food event planning to my schedule because I have a much better idea of what for people. And we had people who are celiac and gluten intolerant that couldn't eat breakfast. All they could eat was a piece of cantaloupe and watermelon. There was nothing else provided for them because it was so wheat based. And that's a problem. Like there's no reason. So like going into future events, my plan is when people buy a ticket, we want to know, do you have food intolerances? If we do vegan free, if we do vegan meal, if we do a gluten free based on gluten allergy and celiacs, not intolerance, because I want more people to be able to eat it. Is that enough? What other considerations we need to take? It's probably going to be dairy. I'm probably going to have to add a dairy intolerant lactose type in there as well.
Well, I can send you my guide on how to set it up. Yeah. I have a whole template on how to ask the questions.
Okay.
And I want to get though to Rita's popping in here. Conferences are definitely tricky. And then she said, wowza, even carbonated, which is mind blowing. Okay. I didn't know that. And then dietary needs are hard at events. She's busy here typing away. I love this. Thank you so much.
Rita is awesome because she also has dietary needs.
Oh,
so
okay.
She and I, we bonded over that. She's a travel agent and she does amazing work planning business trips on cruises.
Oh, nice. Okay, good.
Yeah. And she does event planning around that. So yes.
Yeah.
You two should meet. I need to get you guys an email.
We may have already met. I don't remember, but hi, Rita. Thank you. No, I do have a template of how I suggest meeting planners ask. And I do say, I actually put the question under, do you have any, I don't know if I say disabilities, I have to think about the word. How can we help you fully participate in this event? And so it says, do you have a hearing? Do you need assistance with hearing? Do you need assistance with vision? Do you need assistance with mobility, diet? And then I break it down to say diet. Is it a food allergy? It's celiac disease? Is it diabetes? Is it something else? And then I ask for, and I state on here, these are medically necessary dietary needs, right? And then I ask any kind of preferences. And that goes into religious and alcohol and things like that, because those are all different restrictions of some sort.
Yep, absolutely.
I'll send it to you, Rita. She just said, I'm starting to use that at my events. That's good. Because it is a challenge. And I actually have an event coming up in June that we have somebody who cannot be in the room with nuts. And I said to the hotel, I said, we need to make sure all of our events, anything served at our event has to be nut free. And they're like, well, we're not a nut free environment. I said, I understand that. But every single thing that you're going to serve at my event, which we have 99% of the meeting space and we have 85% of the hotel rooms, you can do for 4 days.
You know? Absolutely. Yeah. It's interesting you bring that up because we had, for this conference I was at, we did a pre-conference get together and I'm airborne allergic to cooked corn and they had cooked corn in the event. So not only was it not accessible, I had to walk around a building to find an elevator, then call someone to get me down the elevator. Otherwise I'd have to walk stairs. The event was set up only for people who were who actually had mobility because it was a sip and putt. So for those of us who and then there was corn, like I left an hour in, I'm like, this is not worth my time. And I'm getting sick with sit here and try and meet people.
So, and can I bring this up because you do have, you have mobility. How do I say that?
I have limited mobility. I am dynamically, I'm dynamically disabled. I'm part-time wheelchair user, depending on what my ability to walk is on a certain day. And otherwise I'm using crutches.
Okay. So you have both,
which makes me a really great accessibility director.
Right. Exactly. You have it from the eating perspective and you have it from the mobility perspective. And I love that. I mean, because it helps people, to me, bringing a real life perspective to it helps it come to realization, but it's also hard to grasp. Yeah. And the corn allergy, I think it's even more challenging in my opinion. Like I had an attendee who was allergic to apples. And we ended up having to, with the chef and I, the day before the event opened, he went through every single to find apple cider vinegar, right? To pull all of those sauces out. And we changed that. So it does come back down, like you said at the beginning, looking at the ingredient labels.
Yep. And yeah, it's amazing. And it's so funny because I was such that average, like clueless American prior to my allergy. I was eating anything like, it's not a problem. Yeah. And I have chronic pain, and my chronic pain levels like decreased by 75% when I took my allergen
Wow.
out. Inflammation like gone. Like I realized it wasn't weight gain. I literally was constantly bloated from pain because of my allergen. Like,
wow.
And for me, that's what the connection was. It doesn't mean that's going to be the connection for everybody else out there.
Right.
Talk to your doctor, please.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing what you learn when you're forced to. And now I'm like, okay, let's talk to people before. So the average consumer understands what the rest of the population is going through. Because FAIR is saying that just recognized allergies is, 85 million people? And this was before sesame was added to that recognized allergy list. So now you've got those, but now you have all of us who are unrecognized. People who have issues with like nightshades. What about garlic? Right? We're not included in those numbers. So now how big of a market are we talking about?
Right.
Of people who can't eat what's being made and put in grocery stores.
Okay, so then I want to take that conversation, because then you're going to get somebody and turn it into your consulting in your book here, because you're going to get a hotel, you're going to get a restaurant going, well, I'm not going to feed you. I can't feed you. We're not a nut-free facility. We're not a corn-free facility. How are you, with your consulting firm, how are you changing their minds?
It's not so much changing. Yeah, it's not about changing their minds. It's about helping them understand where I'm coming from, so they can see where maybe some adjustments can be made. So when I first started down this path, I was denied to bring in my own food. So I would have to go a conference with no food. So like even at this conference, I brought my safe food, but I had to eat in my hotel room. I couldn't eat and be part of my conference group. So
why did you have to eat in the hotel room if you brought your own food? Because they wouldn't let you bring it into the meeting space?
No.
Wow.
Sometimes I will be in your face and fight you, but I have chronic pain. I have to pick those battles. And I'm like, all right, I'd rather spend the energy getting back to my hotel room, which is on the 7th floor, than fighting you and getting myself so uptight and angry that I'm upset the rest of the conference. So I'm just going to take the food in my room and not be part of the conference.
Which is which is what I argue and defend all the time, because I'm like, you've paid a certain amount of money to come participate in this event. And if you worked for a company, XYZ company, they paid for you to go. They paid for your flight. And you did this too, pay for your hotel room. And they are expecting you to be at the event, networking with people, landing new business or finding a new vendor or whatever it is. And you can't, because you have to be in your room because somebody at a hotel said, sorry, you can't bring in your own outside food.
Yep. And now add the added caveat that I am an executive director for the board that was putting on that conference.
Wow. Yeah. This is ADA. This is.
But it's not, but it's legal, because ADA only is the bare minimum. You need to be accommodating. It is not full accommodation. And now, can people fully accommodate us? No. I mean, the hotel we were at is a higher level hotel, like it was about $400 to $500 a night per room for a hotel room, right? I paid that for my ticket on top of that.
Right.
And their carpet was not, you could not take a motorized device across it. So we had a woman who had broken her foot and was on a scooter. People had to push her because the carpet wasn't stretched out and it was bunching. And her scooter kept getting caught on the bunches of carpet. So they literally she had to put her leg up, and people had to 4 people pushed her across the carpet because
that's just ridiculous.
right? And if you're charging $500 a night and you
Right.
have 9 floors, you had better make sure your carpet is stretched. How hard is
Right.
that?
And
And
was
it's
that
not
like
just
wall to wall
anywhere.
carpet or?
Yes, wall to wall carpet, and it's the main area where they hold their conferences. So this is like
Wow.
high traffic area. So like they almost need an annual setup where people come in and stretch out the carpet because it's going to get loose with that much
Right.
traffic in that
Yeah.
area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just like,
Wow.
and I couldn't bring my wheelchair because I wasn't able to get out of the airport with it because nobody would pick me up and take my wheelchair and me to my hotel. I had to have, as long as I didn't have the wheelchair, I could get a ride. Like it's
Okay. So when did you figure that out? Not when you got to the airport, right?
no, oh no, I'm too much of a planner. That's not going to
Okay.
happen. But it took up until a week before I left for me to figure out how to get from the airport to my hotel. So, because as soon as I had my hotel booked, I had my tickets, and I knew where I was flying in and what my times were. I started trying to get a setup. So I went through all the options. I would say, this is where I am. I need wheelchair accommodation, and I got the same message every time. Oops, we have no vehicle availability for you. Option.
Wow.
So yeah.
Erica,
I,
thank you. It's horrible. I agree with you about the carpet.
yeah.
Okay, so which brings me to a story of the Raleigh Convention and Visitors Bureau, right? They heard that story. They were doing an event for accessibility a couple of years ago, and they heard that too. And I think I actually heard this from them, and I don't know if it was in Raleigh, but somebody had a motorized scooter and they called the hotel to come pick them up. The hotel couldn't put their scooter in their van. The van followed that person on the street while that person drove their own scooter to the hotel. I'm thinking it wasn't that far away, but still. But Raleigh made a point of this and saying we need to talk to our transportation companies to ensure that we have these things, because if you're going to be deemed as an accessible city, those are things that you actually have to think about.
Yeah. Well, right. And like one as a wheelchair user, it is a risk to fly with your own chair because 100% of the time it's going to get damaged. It's just how much damage are they going to do to it? Getting out of the airport is your next line. But then I was going to just borrow a wheelchair from the hotel because they said, yeah, you can borrow our wheelchair as long as it's on property. They had one wheelchair. They would not allow all day use in case somebody came in and needed the wheelchair. You can't say you have a wheelchair and then say, no, it's only one. Like you got to have like 3 or 4. Yeah. And I get they just sit there, they gather dust. It's not something you want to invest in. But when you have a conference and people like me show up and we're dynamically disabled and we have those moments.
I love that word, dynamically disabled.
I do too. Like anything that helps.
Yeah, I'm not going to use that on me, but I love that term. Well, and I had a conference in Orlando, and a gentleman was the local person driving in, but he needed a wheelchair or a scooter to get around the large property. Right. And the hotel would not rent it to him because he was not a guest. And so they gave us the number of the company, and the company said, well, we already have them on property. Get them from the hotel. And so it was like this conundrum. I'm like, hello, I had to call and say, give this man a scooter now. Right. I'm like, that's ridiculous. Just because they're not paying for a hotel room, they are a guest in your property because they're eating, they're participating in an event. They should be able to rent that scooter. I mean, they're paying you for it.
Yeah. And do you think that gentleman, if he's in another group, is going to recommend that hotel? He is not.
No, not at all.
How much business did you lose by not having decent customer service?
Right. Exactly. And then you're correct, Rita. It should not be this difficult, but it happens every single day. Yep. Okay. So, all right. So back to that hidden consumer. And you told me that you're not trying to change their mind. You're trying to broaden their perspective.
Yes.
And do you have any stats that you're able to share before you put your book out here on how broadening their perspectives have helped companies?
Oh, hey, stats. I love data. How do I not have that at the top of my head?
Sorry.
It's interesting. The first company I worked with in the food industry, they were organic, but they were trying to get on Amazon. And I've gone back and looked at their numbers, and they've decreased because in order to be on Amazon, they had to add so many more extra ingredients so that their product would last longer in the warehouse and distribution.
Oh,
It destroyed their product. Like, what do you
wow.
do?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You
One
order
of the
direct.
companies I work with, the one stat I do have is, so I always start my work with the website. It's all
Okay.
about, the website is your core. People really, really forget how important your website is, because even referral traffic is going to look at your
Mhm.
website and go, do I really want to work with this person?
Right.
So there's a company that I'm partnering up with here, hopefully in the future. Starting with their website, I was able to increase their traffic by 1,200% in 1 year, but their
Wow.
conversion rate went up 608%. And it came down to, I was able to get that language in that showed the prospective consumer that this company knew what they were talking about. And it talked so clearly to that hidden market. That hidden market was willing to just buy that product.
Can you
don't
give
get
an example of that? What that means?
What does that mean? Okay, so let's start with that first company that ended up
Okay.
deciding to ignore
Okay.
everything I said, right? They had
Yeah.
one item under natural flavors. And it was
Oh,
only there because that's how it's done. But guess what? That natural flavor didn't need to be there. They could have literally just put the ingredient. When they switched out and actually told people what that ingredient was, their sales went up.
oh, wow. Okay.
Because there's quite a few people that don't buy natural flavors, right?
Right.
So
Mm-hmm.
just being that open and saying, hey, this is what we have listed under natural flavors and this is what
Right.
it does, and you
Right.
explain it, people are going to buy it because they know what's in there. There's
Right.
too many
And that's on
people.
their website, not necessarily on the label, because that's too
No,
many words.
it's not on the label.
Yeah.
You put it
Yeah.
on the website because that's
Okay.
where people are going to go to do their research. The hidden
Mhm.
consumer, their journey starts with, if they see your item in the new shiny product in the aisle,
Right.
they're not going to buy you. They can't. They have to research, are you being true? 90% of packaging is wrong. So 90% of what you see in that grocery store is lying to you. You can't trust it.
Even the white box
Even though,
with
yeah. If it has the certification labels on it, you're more likely to be okay with it. So
Okay.
think about this. There's a company I've been talking to, and they're working with a natural organic juice company.
Okay.
They started and they do auditing, and they were auditing the back end of this organic juice company, and they discovered they're not actually organic, but they're claiming organic on all their packaging, and it's a national brand.
Wow. How can,
So
because there are guidelines on organic.
regulations, and that's why, because she's getting them ready for their federal audit, and they're going to fail because they claim organic when they're not.
Wow. And is that because they follow up with their providers?
Well, and this is where you've got people on one end who are making the product, and then you got your marketing teams.
Right.
In bigger companies, those are two silos, and they're not talking, right? They're just independent, doing their own thing, going on their own ways. Marketing teams do not understand some of those legal liabilities that go into claiming certain things. They don't understand there has to be an auditing format that confirms they can use that terminology.
Right.
I think the best example I have is someone in my network got diagnosed with diabetes. So they had to take all sugar out of their diet. So they decided they were going to go to the grocery store that day, and they looked for the food they typically eat and then bought the sugar-free version. Their levels were 3 times higher at their next checkup. The doctor said you would be safer eating a tablespoon of sugar every single day instead of eating the food you ate. Because of the hidden sugars, there are 56 different names for sugar, and not all of them say sugar. So if you're in the marketing team and you don't know those 56 names, you're going to look and say, oh, there's no sugar in that. We're fine. We can call it sugar-free. And that's what they do.
Wow. What is the most prevalent word for sugar that people don't understand? Or the most?
That's a good question. They're all so unique and different. Like there's a malt that's a sugar, ethanol malt, I think is what it was.
Yep.
Ethyl.
Mm-hmm. Erica just said, that's
dextrose.
Wild to me, but I totally don't understand in a bigger CB that the marketing production team doesn't talk to each other. Totally true. Yes.
Right. Yeah. No, understand. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I'm like, that's part of what I do for those larger companies is we start with your website. Let's get you some results first so that you're more willing to let me do the software and automation side at the end.
Right. Yeah.
I train people how to talk to each other and what they need to ask to get the right information for the package. Because marketing team doesn't understand what production does. They don't understand how ingredients are made. And most companies that are in production don't understand how their ingredients are made. Like,
Right.
everyone's like, well, dextrose is just sugar. No, it's not. It's moldy corn sugar. If you have a corn allergy, or not a corn allergy, but if you are allergic to mold and you drink soda, you are very likely actually inflaming your allergy, because a can of soda, doesn't matter what brand you buy, is just liquid moldy corn sugar. That's all you're drinking. And don't even get me started on the diets or the zeros. Those zeros are loaded with sugar. It's just not natural sugar.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. I'm just like, it's a thing. It's a thing that I like to get on a soapbox about.
And it just shows we don't know. There's so much about our food system that we don't understand. And and when there are companies and states or organizations, we'll just use California, for example, that are pushing to get better standards, and people push back. Rita just said heebie-jeebies. Yes, ma'am, I agree with that. But their lobbying arms then go and put all this money into lobbying and passing the thing or blocking the bills when we're trying to just be healthier and save our society, save the human population because of chemicals that are put into our food. And actually, my sister-in-law, some guy said she pours beer at a grocery store and, at their little bar now. And some guy came up and said, he goes, no one should be eating vegetables and fruits because they've got so many different chemicals and things on them. And he's pushing just eating meat. It's healthier, et cetera, and nothing in the middle of the grocery store. I know.
No, don't eat the meat. The meat is worse than the fruits and vegetables. Like, he has no understanding. He's been bought out by the meat lobbyists.
And everybody's got these different perspectives on it. But she was all like, Tracy, there's carcinogens in fruits and vegetables. And she's like, I want to go test the number of carcinogens against the plastic that stuff is served in.
Don't get me started on that one. Or are you trying to?
No. But I'm like, and then I'm thinking apple seeds. If you eat too many apple seeds in one sitting, apple seeds are arsenic in it if you eat too many of them, but you don't eat the apple seeds, right? So Johnny Appleseed doesn't eat the apple seeds.
If you're buying concentrated apple juice or bottled apple juice, pre-bottled apple juice, are they grinding up the seeds with that apple juice?
I don't know.
All I know is the carton is made out of corn, so I'm not going to use plastic. Yeah. Food grade plastics are made from corn. So when we talk about nanoplastics in our bodies, it's because of that boxed wine you enjoy, that water bottle you picked up at the plastic water bottle. Mm-hmm. Those biodegrade as soon as the liquid is in it. So you're drinking plastic when you drink whatever beverage is in that plastic.
Oh, heebie-jeebies again. There we go, Rita. There's your heebie-jeebies.
I'm so good at my job.
Yeah. Okay, so then on that note, you made me think of something. The bottled soda or the canned sodas and things like that. So, does that mean you can't use a Vitamix or a food processor?
God, no. And they use corn ingredients on top of it. So think about your Vitamix. The actual element is plastic. Everything is plastic. So I can't use any plastic. So everything in my house is stainless steel or glass.
Okay.
And then if you buy like pre-Vitamix packs, those have corn in them.
What's a pre-Vitamix pack?
The vitamin, like supplemental stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. I just throw vegetables in my fruits and vegetables in my Vitamix.
Well, that's good, but it's still made out of plastic, so it's food grade plastic. So yeah, I'm not touching it. They had a magic bullet up for a raffle, and I'm like, take my name right out of that one.
Yeah. Okay. So it is. So stainless steel equipment. But that means there's no blenders, nothing like that.
I have a glass blender.
Okay.
We can't fill it full because I have to make sure the food doesn't touch the lid.
Okay.
But the insides are all steel, from the knife system on the inside to the peg it sits on. That's all steel.
Okay.
The base is plastic, but my food doesn't touch that. So I'm okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
But the actual jug, the container, has to be glass.
How long did it take you to find that?
A decade.
Oh, wow.
Just like I just started making sourdough bread in November because it took a decade to find safe yeast, because yeast is not safe either. Like I had to find somewhere where when you buy yeast in the grocery store, you're not buying it in the refrigerated section, which means it's shelf stable, and it's that way because it's grown on corn. So it's a corn-based yeast you're buying to put in your breads. So you have to I literally had to look for the yeast company that was like, this may die in transit, so please let us know when we can replace it. Like, oh, good, it's not shelf stable. I'm in.
So basically, that's a good delineation in if it's not shelf stable, you can eat it, because they're putting in so many additives.
Those additives are based in corn.
Corn. Yeah. Okay. And I just thought of something about myself, but never mind. I'm not going to say that. So what is your goal with the book and with your company?
So the book goal is it's about my journey. So I want to talk to the consumer about, you're probably having issues with food and you don't know it. My allergy, I have probably had reactions to corn all my life, but I just thought getting sick after eating was normal. Like, and then as I got older, think of it like an allergy bucket. My bucket got so overflowing, it got stuck. And that's what created the infection. So I had to clear my bucket, which meant I had to go cold turkey. Everything had to go. Okay. But it was a process. I thought I had colds. I thought I had eczema. I thought I had IBS. I thought I had this, I had that. Turned out it was all an allergic reaction to what I was eating and drinking. Wow. So part of it is to educate the consumer. You probably have more going on than you realize. What's interesting is in 2022, fourth quarter, a lot of research came out, peer-reviewed science journals. That's what I read. I don't read other people's books. But the peer-reviewed science is showing that our food is killing us. And we've got 5 ingredients that is in all of our food that is causing everything from chronic pain, chronic inflammation, kidney failure, heart attacks, and obesity. So are you going to
tell us those 5 foods, or do we have to wait for the book?
You have to read the book, because I don't remember them off the top of my head, because I'm in the process of rewriting it. I'm only at 50,000 and I've got another 30,000 words to go. So my May 15th.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, for the business side, I'm showing what I do, the work I've done, and I'm telling you what the solution is to this problem. We know we're getting sick from our food. We know hidden consumer is hidden in plain sight. Majority of Americans read food labels, but I am putting money on they're not reading it for calories. They're reading it to see what ingredients are in there. And we're looking at, just with the top 8 recognized allergies was an $85 billion market that people were missing out on, or 19 billion. It's 85 million people. So we could very easily be $100 billion market that's untapped.
Right.
And I'm walking in the second half of the book, companies through how you get our business.
Right. Well, and I'm glad you say that, because so I'm doing this event in Texas, and I have this person who's not allergy, cannot be in the room with nuts. And I mentioned it to somebody at the hotel, and she's like, well, we've got it. It's fine. We're not a nut-free environment. I said, okay, but again, we're renting out this space. And so I wrote an email, and I just said, I really want to touch back on this, because Texas has a new law, the Sergio Lopez Food Allergy Awareness Law, that came into effect last September, and it was enacted last September, and you have to adhere to it by this September. And I want to know where the hotel stands in meeting this regulation and what the regulation says that you have to do. And I said, this person is spending such and such amount of money on her conference, having to, like we talked about earlier, flying there, paying on the hotel bill. And as a guest of your hotel and as an attendee of our event, she has the right to be able to experience this event as safely as it possibly can. When I talked to her, I'm like, this is not a nut-free hotel, but for this event. And she's like, that's completely fine with me, right? She understands that, right? That we're going to make everything nut-free in our event. But it took me saying to them, and I think this is the thing, is like, it's a head in bed for you for this conference, for us to make a room block, but that's a potential customer. that could come back, because your hotel is not just for meetings.
Yep. Like, well, and that's a great point. Sorry. My cat, this is Ginger Snap. I went to a national event in Austin at a Marriott, and it was such a horrible experience. Like,
Really?
there was nothing good about it, from the food to mobility. And I never want to go back there. I became a Marriott Club member. I have no intention of ever staying at another Marriott. That is how bad my experience was.
Wow.
So how much money are they losing out? Because when I travel, I make sure I don't stay at a Marriott hotel.
Wow. And that's a lot of brands.
It's a lot of brands.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm an executive director. If I have a choice, I'm going to tell my team, you're not allowed to have our conferences at Marriott's, because people like me aren't going to be able to participate.
Wow. Okay. And that's a lot of spend.
Well, and on top of it, people with mobility, any type of accessibility and food issues, we're becoming 60% of this country. So you're saying you're going to eliminate 60% of potential conference goers because you don't want to acknowledge us. Your loss.
Right. And we're going to go. Right. Yeah, exactly. It's in my pocket instead. Yeah. So there's so much to unpack here. We might just have to do that other episode. And I'm good with that. I've had multiple people on the show. And Erica, that reminds me, I need to talk to you about that. What are the biggest misconceptions that food manufacturers and or hotels, convention centers, food service providers, people who make food have about this consumers with allergies?
How about this one? This is my favorite line. My food can never make you sick. Hear it all the time. And I think we have to remember that food manufacturers, people in that side of the business, are people. And they're bringing with them their own preconceived notions of people with allergies. And they all believe we're doing it to get out of eating something or to get special treatment, or that their food is so clean, there's no way anybody could have an allergic reaction to their food. Like, they just don't want to understand and follow through and understand. Like, TSA, I hate the TSA. They do good work, but as an allergy person, I can't drink out of plastic bottles. They've tried to throw away my double insulated stainless steel water bottles, because I don't get water when I go to airports because they use plastic filters, which makes me allergic to the water then, because it's made from corn. So I started bringing in glass bottled waters that are pre-sealed. I don't open it until I'm in the airport. And I got into a fight with a TSA agent. I had to ask 5 times for a supervisor because they were refusing to let me under. And I use the special words. I'm not going to say, because I don't know how well known that is, but that this is I have a medical reason for this, and they did not accept the 2 words. They just refused. No, you can just use the water fountains. You'll be fine. And I'm like, you're not my doctor. I want your supervisor. No, like, it was a whole deal, because they don't want to understand. They have their mindset, and nothing can go outside of that. We all fall into the gray area. My sensitivity, your sensitivity, we're on different levels. But yet people just don't understand how poorly made our food is. And they just assume everybody should be able to eat everything.
And that's okay. I mean, the long story is important to understand and to learn. And the fact that, it's not just the food, it's that filter that's on the water fountain, so even the accessibility, the water fountain that you can put your water bottle underneath, that's got corn in it. You can't.
Yep. Yeah. Because they use corn-based plastic water filters. And I will break out in a head to toe rash within 30 seconds of drinking water from one of those fountains.
Really? I'm assuming that's from experience, because
that is from experience. Yes. The hives that I get 2 hours later are worse than the rash, because your body's absorbing it, right? It's water. Your body's absorbing that, and my body just does not react well. So one of the reasons I know I'm a super sensitive.
Yeah. Well, it makes me think about that Allergic Living cover story a couple of years ago about the woman who was allergic to water. and and she's like one of 50 people in the world, and she can only take a shower like 5 minutes one time a week or something like that. Right. And she can drink it, but she couldn't have it touch her skin. So, which is challenging in of itself. But then last week, Melinda, who was talking about, she's a farmer on an organic farm, and she was talking about collecting rainwater and using rainwater versus tap water to water your flowers or to water your vegetables. She's like, that's why everything looks so vibrant after it rains, is because the rainwater is so much more nutrient packed and healthier for you than what our tap water is.
Well, and the unfortunate thing for me is I can only drink tap water. Like, I can't afford to buy glass bottles water for 6 bottles a day. Like, you're not going to do that. At $5 a bottle. No, thank you. So I'm stuck drinking my tap water out of my stainless steel that I've had to clean myself. So, but it's not exactly safe either. Like, I still have to, it's an allergy bucket. You got to balance what you do, and water is important. So water gets the priority. Yeah. Because we have to clean our water. I mean, that's part of being part of a city.
yeah, exactly. Now, what about, so you can't drink water out of the aluminum cans?
No, aluminum cans are also coated in corn. So corn and cornstarch are used in a variety of packaging. Like, besides the packaging itself, it's used as a coating to keep things from sticking. When the BPA finally became a big thing and the EU and other countries started banning BPA, we shifted then more towards the corn version of that, which still puts that lining around the aluminum on the inside, but that means now it's corn-based. So there's nothing in an aluminum can I can drink.
Okay, lots of things.
Or eat. Like, I don't eat canned goods either. There's no baked beans in my future, and haven't been in a long time.
But you have to get fresh beans because you can't get the dried beans.
I would have to find fresh beans at my farmer's market, which I've never seen. Because as much as I do bulk rolled oats from Sprouts, I can't, when I buy their beans, I get immediately sick. I'm down with a headache for 24 hours. So however beans are processed, I can't do it in bulk form from anywhere.
Okay, so then my next question is why have you not become a farmer?
I am disabled, and that's not happening. I will starve first. I'm not bad enough to think pizza grows out of the ground, but no. I love gardening, and I can do that, but the amount of energy it takes to maintain a garden or a greenhouse, I don't have that kind of energy, nor do I have that kind of time. And I can't change the world if I'm in my garden.
That's very true. That's very true. So in the education that you do in changing people's perceptions or broadening our perspective, where do we begin with that education? I mean, I remember, and I don't know why this popped into my head, but in college, you learned to write a press release at the 8th grade reading level, right? And so that everybody can understand it. For the most part, majority of people understand it. So does that education with your book, again, for everybody to know, it's called The Hidden Consumer. You're educating the consumer up front about what we're eating. But then again, it's also the people you're educating there are also our servers and our cooks and how do we meld that all together?
And that is going to be where it's going to take a group of us, a variety of people in our venue of allergies, and how do we make sure people can continue to eat safely? I mean, take Kyle Dine, right? Creator of the allergy card that's now digital. You can travel with it anywhere. That's the first step. He's educating using his card, because now people are going to be like, this is what I have issues with. And the servers aren't going to know what's in that food. And the cooks, like in my case, I don't even tell people I'm allergic to corn, because that's the fastest way to find corn in my food. Like, they literally almost deliberately put it in there. So I will ask specific questions, but I won't ask, is there corn in it? Because they have no clue about how ingredients are made. I don't, and it's going to be on a different level, right? No one's going to have that full understanding that I do. That's what makes me unique and why I can do what I do, because I've got a deep knowledge. Nobody needs my deep knowledge unless you're making the product. So for the average consumer, I think it's not so much about, it's about knowing, it's about asking questions and being open-minded.
Okay.
Listen to what your customer is telling you and be like, I really have concerns with this or this, and this is what I'm trying to avoid. I have a friend who does only plant-based diet because her husband had a heart attack in 2020. And they went to a chain restaurant, which they never do, but they were in the middle of Nebraska and you don't have any choices. And this chain restaurant, they're like, yeah, we're vegans. We need to avoid these things. And she goes, oh, well, you should do the steamed broccoli. And they looked at it, they go, but is your butter plant-based? Because we all know butter's not plant-based, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh, yeah. And they ask, can that be removed? And she's like, oh, no, it's already, it comes in with already buttered. We just fry it up. And I'm like, she's like, yeah, that's no.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that brings up, because I was at the Orlando airport and I sat down at Outback because it's right there in one of the terminals.
Right.
It's the main sit down restaurant there. And the bartender, I said, okay, I'm gluten-free. And she's like, okay, well, you can't have this and you can't have this. And it was like the potato, or it was the broccoli was one of the things. And she's like, because we put the seasoning on it or whatever. But I like triple tipped the bartender on my meal because I was so impressed by the knowledge that she had. And I shouldn't discount it, but it's really surprising for a bartender to know the food so well. And I'm like, thank you for that. And she's like, you can eat this or this. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Makes me wonder who in her family has a gluten intolerance issue that she had to learn more, or is she herself celiac?
Right. Exactly. I was blown away. And I know that, and it depends on what branch or what restaurant you're eating at and what city you're at, of who the management is or who's this waiter or whatever. But again, it's the people like you and I who are working in those jobs who know to ask the right questions and of our guests, because we're like, hey, can you do this? Right. Or like for an event, right? I had 3, and I use this story all the time. I had 3 people who requested kosher at an event. And I'm like, okay, how kosher are you? And one was Orthodox Jew, and it was during Passover. So she and I maneuvered everything that way. And then another guy's like, I'll eat off the buffet if you label everything. Right. And so it's different levels of kashrut of following that. But if we just pick up the telephone and ask some additional questions, we can find out a lot more.
Yeah. Yeah. That really, Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for the people on the other side, don't discount us. Just listen to what we have to say. We're just trying to keep ourselves safe.
Yeah. We're not trying to cause you pain. We're trying to make us not be in pain. Yeah.
Right. And it's not that I'm not going to sue you because you use corn. No, I just need to know what I can and cannot eat. Like, I know eating at a Mexican restaurant is probably 99.9% dangerous. I might find something, but what else is going to end up on it or next to it or cooked next to? Like, you just, it's a risk. Like, I don't eat at Mexican restaurants.
Guacamole. You can make your own guacamole at home. Yeah.
So many avocados out here. We're good.
Yeah, exactly. Very true. And one of the things that you said too, and kind of going back to Erica's comment that said it's here, totally understand the bigger CPG, the marketing and the production teams don't talk to each other, but it also reminds me of hotels and restaurants, because the front of the house is the one that's the representative and talking to the guest and getting those questions, right? And then the back of the house is the one making the food. And I've said this numerous times on the show. I'm like, I've had chefs saying, I make the food, I don't label it. And front of the house staff saying, I don't cook. How would I know that? Right. But you're one entity. And with what you're doing, I mean, I think to the level that you're doing it with the food manufacturers and anything else, it's like, let's tie this together to this end of it as well, because it's not just how it's made, it's how it's served.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And maybe you can explain on this a little bit more, but what I find fascinating is there are some restaurants that I go to because I know they're mostly safe, but we did a board retreat in Center City back in September. And I couldn't eat anything. Even the coffee was like off limits for me. So like I went this entire board retreat with no food, but then we went downstairs to the restaurant and it was a high-end restaurant. I could eat. Why can I eat in your restaurant, but you can't serve me that quality of food in the meeting?
So my first question would be, was that restaurant owned by the hotel or was it an outside chef, like a celebrity chef restaurant?
I don't know. It was a small independent restaurant. This wasn't a chain. Like, it was owned by a mother-daughter team. It was, there was no brand name on it.
Then that's probably why. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
but
yeah,
if they're also doing the food in if they're also responsible for the food in the meeting, I don't know why that wouldn't be the case, but maybe not.
Yeah. And what they told me was that they order food separately for those in meetings versus what they order from downstairs.
Then they're ordering it. They're doing it from Ghost Kitchen or something like that. Yeah. Yeah. I get blown away by that. Yeah. Well, it is a question to ask. I mean, when you go to I'm going to say MGM off the top of my head, but if you go to Las Vegas and you look at all the restaurants that are in there, right? Those restaurants they're leasing this space potentially, right? They're not owned by those hotels. They're leasing that space in the name, and the hotels want the name of that chef in there. So they're leasing that space to them. But having the quality control over the food and beverage is not necessarily the hotel's responsibility. It's that restaurant's responsibility, and vice versa. And actually at the Fair Food Allergy Safety Summit, I met a woman I believe she was from First Watch, and she was the Q&A person, quality and assurance. And so her job was actually to vet all of their vendors to make sure of allergens, to make sure of any other sourcing issues and things like that. And I found that quite amazing. But why are food service companies not doing that same kind of quality assurance on the products they're buying from the big food distributors?
Because it's not regulated. They don't have to. So why do it? And honestly, under the last president, they removed a lot of those food safety precautions. So our food quality went down, but our prices kept skyrocketing.
Yeah. All right. Lynn just put a comment in here. Tracy and I had a bad experience at a Marriott in Detroit. Tracy never got her food for 3 meals. Oh, I don't remember that. I probably blocked it away, but thank you for reminding me.
See, Marriott's.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no. And I think I know what event that was, but I'm not going to mention that because might be speaking there again this year. But at a different hotel. Yeah. So it's just, there's so much education to be done. And in one way, I want to say to people, and I love what you're doing, is that you can't know everything. And like you said it, you're like, no one should need to know all of this stuff. Let me do that for you and come in and educate you. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So when does The Hidden Consumer come out?
January 2025. We're going to wait till after inauguration. We're deliberately trying to get through. This book is going to be big. I've been picked up by some major publishing companies already. Like, you're going to find hard copy books in retail locations. This isn't just an Amazon special. This is going to be kind of an expose on the food industry, the lack of communication between departments, but it's about solutions, because that's what I bring to the table. I always bring solutions. So January 2025, might be early February 2025, but my big deadline looming right now is May 15th, 80,000 words due to the publisher. So we're getting there.
You and I can't talk on that day. Or we can, because you'll be celebrating the fact that you submitted it.
I might be drinking champagne not champagne, cava, because I'm allergic to champagne. They use corn-based sugars to sweeten it up. So brut cava, the Spanish version. But I'm drinking that while talking and just celebrating. I might take that day off from work too.
Yeah, I would definitely do that. All right. So I just want to end actually, how does everybody get a hold of you?
How do they get a hold of me? I am so easy. Hang on. I'm going to grab you can find me on my website. I'm trying to get my code. No, where did my links go? I just want to share my link. I'm going to give you my link tree here. You can get all my pertinent information in my link tree. I have a newsletter sign up. So if you want
where did you put that? Because I don't see that.
Oh, I put it under comments.
Oh, in the comment. Oh, gotcha. Okay, there it is.
In the comments, yeah. So my newsletter sign up is in there. I like to do updates while I'm talking. You get to learn how many words I omitted from my original draft, and you get to see why I need an editor. That will be very blatant in my newsletter. Nothing big, but you'll also get first dibs on any additional. I'm coming out with a food and reaction tracking journal, which is not out in the market right now. and some other fun stuff. But all the ways to contact me are also there on my link tree.
Okay, awesome. Very cool. All right. So my last question to tie all of this together under that hidden consumer: safety, sustainability, and inclusion. What does that mean when eating at a meeting or in a food and beverage experience?
Safety, make sure people can actually eat your food. For me, I went 24 hours with no food yesterday. Between 6 a.m. yesterday and 6 a.m. this morning, I had no food, just with all travel and everything else I was going through. Sustainability, how do we still do this while being sustainable to the environment and to the people around us? Like, I like to say I'm the bougie of allergens, but I'm also the sustainable and economical or the environmental friendly, because plastics are ruining our environment. They're ruining our soils. Glass, stainless steel is more sustainable in the long run and better for our environment. And inclusion, please, I just want to be part of your group. Let me be there and participate. Why am I excluded? I bring you solutions.
Yeah.
Really, how do you bring everybody together and make everyone feel like they deserve to be there and that they should be part of your group?
No, I love it. Thank you. This is such an important conversation. And everybody, this is May 1st. It's the kickoff of Food Allergy Awareness Month. And I'm so excited that, Amy, that you were here to share your experience and what you're doing, because I think it's imperative that we understand. And I think it's imperative to understand how, like what you just said, to feed us, but also for your company to be sustainable. When the statistics that you said that 60% of people have some sort of disability and you're excluding them from your event or your property because of carpeting or food or whatever, we don't want you to fail. I'm
trying to give you money and you're telling me, no, you're not in business.
Yeah. You want to be in business if you do that. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. This is so much fun. I love talking to you. We need to do this more often. If our schedules
We do. Yes. If our schedules can be correct, collaborate some more. Okay. There's Amy's link tree again. Please connect with her and look for her book next January. And I will make sure that we promote it as well when it comes out. And actually, we should just go ahead and book that now for when it comes out. Next week will be all about gluten and celiac disease. So stay tuned for that. And until then, stay safe and eat well. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for listening to the Eating at a Meeting podcast, where every meal matters. I'm Tracy Stuckrath, your food and beverage inclusion expert. Call me and let's get started right now on creating safe and inclusive food and beverage experiences for your customers, your employees, and your communities. Share the podcast with your friends and colleagues at our Eating at a Meeting Facebook page and on all podcast platforms. To learn more about me and receive valuable information, go to tracystuckrath.com. And if you'd like more information on how to feed engagement, nourish inclusion, and bolster your bottom line, then visit eatingatameeting.com.